All right. Something that I was just thinking about for the MGTOW community. Many people in the MGTOW community tend toward atheism, agnosticism. I'm not that. Do your thing. Uh, if I have not convinced you otherwise, I have not. But what I want to outline is something that I think might be unique in the experience of somebody like me, who's more applies ideas from Taoist, Buddhist, and Christian monasticism to my life, and sort of always have. I think that's actually a big part of why it's never really worked out long term between me and ladies, because I do too many things that only make sense if one were to think living like a monk makes sense, and so um, or is an option, and so the Christian world, women who are red pilled in the Christian world are a different sort when after a certain stage of life. After a certain stage of life, once they have like a kid or two, and I mean, they're invested. They just simply they could not imagine the idea of probably trying to manage ever leaving and they just simply, or their community is they're in it. They have nothing outside of their community. They have nothing. They have everything they want. They have guidance, they have tradition, they have friends, their kids have friends, they maybe even start a school together because there's a bunch of people all around the same age, all this kind of stuff. This happens up in Oregon a lot. You get a lot of people who run out here who are part of kind of the far end Protestant stuff, and so they'll form their own little clusters and groups and stuff. It's kind of interesting, and I think people understand that, but I think a lot of people also don't. So these women will end up like now and then they'll get like that, like I'm trying to take it to some different shit. That it's like, no, 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 you guys don't know about the Order of Lazarus and the deal with the Knights of Malta and the Jesuits unseating the British head of the Catholic Knights of Malta. Knights of Malta are the charitable military order that really deals with the Middle East, and especially specifically the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the surrounding areas. So this would go all the way into Iraq and stuff like that. They help out Christian groups that have and so that's why groups like the Yazidis would even exist, is because of and people who, the weird Joanites that are like, they believe in Saint John, the Saint John the Baptist. That's who they believe in. Like I'm not sure if that's the Yazidis, but I forget the name of that group of people, who lived in the marshlands of the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, if I remember right, um, until they were moved by the by warfare. So the Knights of Malta were a big part of that charitable stuff. So now it's that on Katahan Institute, they actually had a interview. The guy was really kind of uncomfortable, it seemed like, until he had really a point at which the questioning started to outline. So now what will you do with your mission? You have both a military, and you have military investiture, and you have religious investiture. You now have your religious investiture back. So that was the interesting, and that's what I found very interesting, is now they have their religious investiture back. So it is that the Orthodox are overseeing charitable work throughout a number of parts of the Middle East. This is coming right. So this is Russia explaining to high level Catholics. So Catholics in the Catholic Intelligence Agency, fundamentally the CIA, as that's the joke, is that they're all Knights of Columbus, and lots of former Air Force, lots of aerospace and a lot of Navy and naval, like, but like orbit stuff, like orbital shit. Like they're into the systems and the communication systems and stuff like that. Those people and Catholicism and Knights of Columbus. That's what I've heard. The rumor is that is sort of said about the CIA. But hey, that's what I know. The this kind of stuff, knowing this kind of stuff, and having this kind of insight when you deal with women who are of some religious group, that they're on woke status. They're like, this, something is going on, and that you then have to explain to them something very important about the MGTOW community. We know. Don't worry. We know. And they were like, what do you mean? No. We get together on YouTube. We have forums. We get together. We know each other, and we're all chatting about this. The men know. The men are not asleep. It's just that you don't understand the alliance. You've never seen anything like this. The alliance of the men who know what's going on are active. We're doing what it takes. And then I explained something from the propaganda war that's going on. And when they realize, like, wait, and it's, yes, without us making this happen, this wouldn't you wouldn't have had even these wins. Don't worry. Now go back to your church and tell them. You have to tell them. This is bigger than they think. This is an alliance of forces that on the one platform where humans can just communicate ideas, that humans have realized there seems to be something almost only existent in the realm of ideas, building up energy. And unless it's dealt with, the physical normalcy of the world will start to totally fail. And it could be at a catastrophic level. People are concerned about this kind of thing, have no words for it, because in every era it's slightly different. But every so many generations, everything kind of goes kerchunk and comes to a real bad point. Well, this is one of the first generations that you have a huge alliance of men, the MGTOW men, who are obviously, their very proclamation is, this is all coming to its kerplunk point, and we're standing back. And if you want to contact us, here's an email, here's a Twitter account, here's a YouTube channel, buy my swag, subscribe to my blog, buy my ebook, various, these guys are really standing back saying, we know. No, we are quite aware that the shield is not functional and that the rebels are coming. Yeah. It's like, it's on some shit like that, No. And so for these religious ladies, I do end up having to explain to them, no, there is a fight going on. It is a secret war, but it's also bigger than you might understand. So you have to be relatively prepared, because there are things in motion, and it's just simply, I said, who knows when the hour, and I always have to say this, we won't know the time nor the hour. We got to remember that. But the math, the debt, what we're doing to print money, and they'll be saying all kinds of wild and crazy stuff. The Pope, the Federal Reserve, Pope, like, and there's a number of these different women. They're from, so where Sister Erica is a little more. She's a good Catholic lady, so she's very focused, very focused on the enemy. But the Protestant ladies sometimes will be a little more like, you're woke. Oh my God, Margaret Sanger, the Pope, the Federal Reserve. And so you gotta like slow. Okay, don't worry, the fellas are talking about it, because when I'm thinking, like a lot of guys, especially on Beckloff's thing, Argent, these men who will discuss, like, a lot of these churches, a lot of these guys are, this is some sad, these are some sad sacks, some of these guys. A lot of these women are kind of outlandish. A lot of these ladies are kind of insane. So, so a lot of us are mostly dealing with the Christian community and Christian ideas and the Christian West on YouTube. There's a lot of people who they just aren't going to church. There's just nothing that quite suits them. This in itself, that's going to resolve itself. I actually have some theories there's a distinct theory I have because of stuff that I've seen from sort of the occult end of Christianity, one might say. And I'm like, no. That project is not working quite the way they want, but it is. It's the ripples are out there, and it's going to collide with this anniversary of Protestantism, the anniversary of the grandmother lodge in London's Grand Lodge. Yeah. The public, the London public publicizing of the Freemasonic fraternity. All of these things will and the lore of the Templars still does not die; it only gets stronger. So all of this is coming together in a very interesting way. It'll be it'll be interesting to see, because a lot of these royal lines, royal families, a lot of secret societies, a lot of these people who remember some very interesting things from past times about Western spirituality. That all of this, there has to be like people who leave like the library of information that we just would have never had access to. A new generation of men joining various, like the York Rite rather than the Scottish Rite, or something strange that you would only know if you were looking into it. The Orthodox swelling in numbers or something. Something's coming. Because the pagans aren't really coming with it. I'm noticing there is not a swelling of hermeticist, like kind of Enlightenment hermeticist stuff. These people aren't coming through and making something that it seems like is really becoming a thing. Just my observation, because the Kabbalists are at work. Don't worry, they're at work every day doing their thing. They are expanding all the time. There are more people with more live streams every few months, and so it's they are rolling. There is a secret war going on. It is a war for ideas. It is a war for minds. It is basically a spiritual war, like Styx, Hex, and Hammer has gotten into. It is a meme war. It is powered by the images, fundamentally talismans. Memes basically are kind of talismans in a way. Rare Pepes are talismans. Do they trigger? How much triggering power do they have? Plus 10 triggering power? Or like -2 triggering power versus fatty with blue hair? Be aware. I love Dutch Brothers. Cutest redhead. Cutest girls there, I swear to God. So, that's what I was thinking about. This spiritual war, and that MGTOW community has this unique kind of place. Religious MGTOW men, the traditionalists. I consider myself solidly somewhere floating around in some weird Gnostic, occult, bad Catholic realm, still sorting it all out, just trying to not be too blasphemous. But I do have to explain to a lot of these women, like, no, 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 no. That story you heard this, and I know they're dancing around like Golem with the ring right now. Like, I have the ring, and I'm like, it's not going to work. It can't. It can't work. You must have faith. And two, we are on it. These fuckers aren't getting away with this one either. We're going to take this victory from them, and we're going to just tell them no, and we're going to turn our backs, and we're going to make them cry. You watch. And don't delight in their tears. And don't look back in anger. We will win this, and so look to the future. The best thing to do is to look to the future, ladies. But you have to understand you're going to see the ugly side of a lot of these kind of traditionalists, and those of us who it's like, we're just like, oh fuck that. As Jesus would say, fuck that, which of course, because we're just, it's like, no, I'm probably going to burn for something that, is way more minor than making these people cry. Making these people cry. Taking away their precious political outcome and being like, no, for a generation. And being like, and don't worry, we had it all on YouTube. So that is kind of a nice thing that I thought I would share. You are engaged in something big. It is the great undoing of things. And how things, it's the movement of the way is reversal, as Lao Tzu would say. The mighty will become small. We're seeing that, the mighty will be humbled. And there's a degree of it that you just have to have faith that that's the way the world works. It's some type of functioning built in. And every so often you feel the static energy in society. I felt it after the Clinton administration. Toward the end of the Clinton administration, just there's a static charge, but it was heavy. And it just was like, ugh. And you're always looking for something exciting to get into, the new exciting thing to be about, coding, the new Bjork album, the new drugs that everyone was taking, the new ways you could put stuff in your face and get, it's even cheaper to get festooned with artwork, these are cheaper than ever. And you always wanted those when you were younger. And now you can have them because you have, more money than ever. You have credit cards. It's raining money. And so now, so much of us are, we ate woe, even if sometimes we won, like how Aaron Clary frequently disparages owning a house where he does, where it's like a lot of us would be like, but you own a house. And he's like, you don't understand it. I'm sorry. It's hard to explain, and I'll explain it again in another video, but and so you have a specific value to society at this point in a secret war. You are Kagyu Ninja, or you're fighting the Kagyu Ninja. That other ninja clan, I wish I was nerdy enough to remember what it was. And you have interesting techniques. You have the talisman of Kek, and and you Chatelet. You have the power of Chatelet. The Shibboleth, Chatelet, Chatelet brothers, Chatelet. So it's an interesting place and time to be, and so keep it fun. It must stay somewhat mirthful, because this isn't, you want to make them, you want to have the Pepe licking their tears, because that's funny. and it has to stay funny, you know. I mean, just this guy Thomas now, from Thomas Smith, who is at MythCon and Sargon, and just this utter triggerization that was going on from Jess Phillips, I wouldn't even rape you. And that was fucking clever. That was funny. But it's the fundamental part of it of, you have taken the piss out of a woman who is relatively well known, you know. How dare ye, you know. And I mean, I remember some shit talking bitches when I was young, and they, you know, they would have been like, you know, I knew women who could bring it. They could bring it when they were younger. I don't know how they are now, if they've grown polite but they could bring it. They knew how to go at it. It was fun. It was a city, and it was fun, and they could defend themselves. And so guys like this, just to see, like, it's just this end of an era for them. And it's really funny to see, like, somebody like him, just the whole way his body was coiled in the seat and everything. Just this position of spur gout and weakness and small child, and Carl's just sitting there looking like cool ruler. Cool ruler. It was dope as hell. I was like, why are you looking like a geezer? And this guy is begging you for money. God damn it. It was so funny. I just kept sitting there thinking of all these captions, looking at this picture of Carl Benjamin just sitting there with this smirk, this other guy all, and I'm just like, God damn it. This is just fucking sad, bro. Like, how do you not see that? And it even fuck with you more, Thomas Smith. I think it's Thomas Smith is his name. Cool ruler. So there's a bigger thing going on here. It's in the body language. It's in the way these people's voices crack. It's the type of language they have to use in these pieces. Here's an example, another example. Okay. Eugene Weekly's article on Antifa. These are people who cannot, with somebody giving them every opportunity, they cannot make themselves look good. They are a movement that simply, their fixation on 77 punk is just, it's too much. See, this is the issue that, so back in the day, the whole thing with a lot of the skinheads was that the skinheads specifically had a style that you would associate mostly with soccer hooligans. So there's a lot of sport cut. And everybody dresses like this in Europe. It's like it's just really weird to try to put it this way, because the only difference was that the skinheads would wear specifically Doc Martens was often the thing, or they would wear heavier shoes because you could use them as weapons. They were the key weapon that you had access to. But a lot of the time it was work boots. You had work boots on, but you would have you'd have chinos and like a sky blue Fred Perry. The Fred Perry, the black and gold Fred Perry of the Proud Boys is such an homage to the skinheads or the hard mods, but their look would be considered what often would have been called the smooths. So this might be what's called suede head or smooth. I think this would be suede head technically, is that I could take a brush to it, not a comb. Once I have to take comb to it, it's a smooth. Smooth, actually, a smooth. And so these were cultures that when applied to Americana and this fight between the skinhead fascists and then people and how people don't understand, how can you be against anti-fascism? And it's like, and so they interview a local that I'm actually relatively good friends with, who's invited me to a lot of these marches and protests in Portland. So he's there with the Patriot protesters and everything, and he does go to these a lot. He had served in I think the Marines, and his son's a proud Marine veteran. Right on, brother. And this is an all right guy, and he had his history, in 92, 93, which 92, 93. This is like the year, like this is like Ice Cube publishing Ice Cube, the nigger you love to hate. This is Ice-T dressed up as a cop after making the song Cop Killer in Onyx in the metal scene, and there's the fuck shit up crew that's in the mosh pits everywhere. This was an ugly time. Recipe for Hate, Boom, Bad Religion. What's it? Gotta Go. I think wasn't around that time. Fucking Agnostic Front, Gotta Go. This was a weird time, and people, because people don't realize what the streets had become like because of the sudden explosion of the interest in rap, and specifically the hardcore part of that scene expanding into places, and people wouldn't know. Like, it really would be people who would have a birthday party and all their friends from their local church and some of their friends from their school, and then niggas with jerry curls would come in and shoot at somebody. And people were like, who has a jerry curl? Who showed up at this? Like, and I mean, and really, like, fools they were different. Gangsters looked different back then. And it was the same with the punks. And I mean, there were peace punks, there were skinheads, there were all kinds of different groups. And so people are now at this point looking at it distilled after post shopping mall, post Hollywood taking the culture of skinhead and punk and mods and fiddling about with it and giving it the old Weinstein, and then reproducing it for a generation that now thinks that they're defending something that's extremely real and very real for them. And it's yeah, I'll just put it that way. It's very real for them. It's what they got. It's their culture. And Antifa ensures some outcomes. They know at a subconscious level, it ensures some outcomes for their culture. Whoever these people consider themselves to be as a collective. Everybody else is on the sidelines saying, you all are just weirdos who need to dress like grown-ups and get to work on time like the rest of us. Like, they just don't understand why the masks, why any of it. They're like, could you actually in any sober, cogent way explain how me doing a job that isn't horrible is slavery? Like, because you still don't make sense, and for some reason you can't grasp why. So somehow you're smarter than everybody else who hates your guts because you're just so unlikable. You're just so intrinsically unlikable as a movement that people just have no problem with the government targeting you. Like, nobody, if it was like the government was after like the World Wildlife Foundation, that would be one thing. You'll be like, why? What's up? What do you got against pandas, Trump? And it was like, and that would be the dopest set of photo. Oh my God, I would love that. Anyway, so this guy Schallenberger, he's just he's a nice dad now, who was hardcore back in the day. And everybody had their time when they were trying to be a tough guy and being hardcore. Oh my God, hate to be held to the standards I lived by in 1993. Oh, save me. And so they end up doing this pretty decent article that they balance out, and then they get a guy who's really kind of, I mean, he has a pretty decent history of sort of entertaining fascist stuff, you know, and stuff. He's definitely far right. He's alt right. He's one of the local alt right guys. Oddly enough, he looks very familiar. I think actually he came by the shop. Which is kind of funny because something about his tattoos seem shockingly familiar. But anyway, you know, he has a right to what he believes and what he thinks. And these people, you know, they trolled him, and this is the, you know, and he had what he had to say. But it all comes down to that pretty much we're looking at it, we're like, no, you're local communists. And you're still masking it as fighting a thing called fascism, and you actually don't identify fascism correctly according to any sober understanding of history. And that's why you keep losing. You keep losing because you will not play the game, and because you won't play the game. That's not how you roll. You don't play the game. You're outside of the game. You're like just kicking at the table and drinking Pabst and urinating on furniture in the room. You know, you don't play the game. You know, you get kicked out. And then you win. Because you'll be exiled or jailed. I mean, it's people are getting it. Like, they're like, oh, they're kind of like the suicidal punks of ideas is what Antifa ends up being. And so this is sort of this thing that I like. I've been starting to think of that. I'm like, no. When I have to explain this, especially to sort of the older, a little older than me, religious women, to kind of get them to understand, like, no. Okay, so you're seeing this. So remember this in history, and remember that. Remember this. Remember. Okay, this is what this is like. And it does, I think, kind of help them to know, like, to tell Sister Erica that Davis Arini converted to Catholicism and he attends church regularly. That warms her heart. She doesn't know who I'm talking about, but she knows enough about what I've explained about. No. This guy really changed my understanding of theology entirely. You know, and this, but. You know, and you know, and getting into like this realm of these thinkers, you know, these people who are thinkers, you know, and authors and stuff. That's like, no, they see something's horribly wrong. They're trying to wrap words around it as quickly as possible for the sake of humanity. And it's a big deal. MGTOW, you are a big deal. And however you're going your own way, you're a big deal.